everybody and welcome back to the Blossom Crochet channel. My name is Rebecca, and if this is your first time visiting, then hello, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you can keep up to date with all of my crochet tutorials. Also make sure that you click the little bell icon and click to receive notifications so that you don't miss anything. And also I do have an extra channel as well where you can find lots of other yarny things as well, which as always is linked in the description. In this tutorial I will be showing you step by step how to create this absolutely beautiful crochet stitch. It consists of granny clusters and V-stitches. It is a really beautiful lacy stitch. I really like the look of it in this yarn as well. It's a very simple row repeat as well. It's really easy once you get going, and I'm using Shapey's Stone Washed XL for the tutorial and for this sample piece that you can see here. But we're just going to go straight in with the tutorial. Like I say, it's a really simple one. It'd be perfect for scarves, for baby blankets, and even for much bigger blankets or afghans as well. It's very versatile. So let's just go with our granny and V-stitch. So you want to start with your slip knot on your hook. And you want to work your foundation chain in multiples of 6. So as wide as you want your project to be, just make sure it is a multiple of 6, and then we'll add some additional chains at the end. So yarn over, pull through. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you just complete your foundation chain in your multiple of 6. So I've completed a chain over 24, which would be a good width for a scarf or something. And then whatever amount you have done, you want to add 4 to the end. So an additional 4 chains. We're going to work now into the 5th chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is our 5th chain. And we're going to do a V-stitch. So a V-stitch is always going to consist of a treble, chain 1, treble, all into the same stitch. So remember, I'm using UK terminology here. In the US, all of these stitches, the trebles, they will be US double crochets. So to do a treble, you go into yarn over, insert into that 5th chain, yarn over and pull up. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your first treble. Chain 1, because we're doing a V-stitch, and then back into that very same chain that you've just worked into, you'll do another treble. So that is your first V-stitch. We're then going to miss 2 chains, so skip 2 chains, and into this 3rd stitch we're going to do a granny cluster. So a granny cluster will always consist of 3 trebles in the same space. So skip 2 and then do 3 trebles in the next chain. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So those 3 trebles have all been worked into that same chain. You're then going to skip 2 stitches again. So skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd you'll do a V-stitch. So treble, chain 1, treble, all in the same space. And then again, skip 2 and granny cluster in the 3rd. So your 3 trebles all in that same space. And you'll just continue that all the way along, alternating between your V and your granny, V and your granny, and then I will meet you as you get towards the end. So when you get to the end, you should get 2 chains left, and you're just going to put a treble on its own into that very last chain. So just 1 treble on its own. And that is how you should look at this point. I'm going to turn my work now. You can just chain 2 if you'd rather, but I like to do my little chunky treble stitch. So I'm going to turn, insert my hook into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both of those loops, and then we've got the 2 vertical parts to this stitch. I'm going to go behind in this one, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. And that just gives us a treble height stitch, but without any of the gapping that we might get with a chain. Okay, so now we're just going to work along, and we're going to do the same as what we have got below us each time, basically. So we're going to be putting a granny cluster on top of a granny cluster and a V-stitch on a V-stitch. So we're going to be working into the middle stitch of our granny cluster. So you'll have 3 for each cluster, and you're going to want the middle stitch, and you'll put a granny stitch. So 3 trebles all into that middle treble from the granny cluster from the row below. 2, 3, and then into the chain 1 space of our V-stitch you'll put another V-stitch. So treble, chain 1, treble, and then again a new granny cluster in the middle treble from the granny cluster on the row below. So 3 trebles into that middle treble, and then V-stitch into your chain 1 from the V-stitch on the row below, and you'll repeat that all the way across. So it's so simple, and I will meet you at the other end in just a sec. So we're ending on a V-stitch because I've just done my granny cluster and I've got that final V-stitch from the row below. So I will finish with my V-stitch. And so we've got those 2 trebles which are part of the V-stitch from the row below, and then those skipped chains from the beginning. So you just want to put a final treble into that next chain. So not into the top of the final treble, but into the stitch right next to it. You're going to work a treble. So that is how you should look now. Obviously each time you start a row you will start either with a V-stitch, depending what you've got, or when you work the other way you will start with the granny cluster. It just depends which way you're working at that point. So turn, do your treble height stitch just like before, or as I say, you can chain 2, and then this time we're starting with V-stitch, so you'll go straight in with a new V-stitch into the chain 1 of the V-stitch from the row below, and then straight into a granny cluster into that middle treble, from the granny cluster below. Now obviously if you want to change colours for your project, then you'll do that at the end of a row, and you will, let me just get to the other end of this row and then I will show you. So this time we've finished with a granny cluster, and I am ready to finish off with a treble into that very last stitch. So not the stitch that's part of your granny cluster, but the one that is just next to it. And if you want to change colour, then I always recommend changing it obviously at the end of a row, and before you complete this final treble, when you have got 2 loops on your hook, I would grab my new yarn with a loop and just pull it through these final 2 loops. And I will leave a link in the description box to the colour changing tutorial, but that is basically how you would do it. So you've got all of the information now that you would need to complete your project, no matter what it is that you're making. So I really hope that you have enjoyed the tutorial. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did, and also subscribe to the channel of course. But I will see you again really soon for another tutorial. But thanks as always for watching, and bye for now.